Hello ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue this super exciting series about the best attacking games of all times, which of course is a subjective measure, but I'm hoping that I'm delivering to you games that you really do enjoy. Today on the menu is yet another world champion, the Tiger from Madras, legendary Vishy Anand, and this is his game against Moldavian Grandmaster Viktor Bologan. The opening is the Caro-Kann defense, and in the Caro-Kann it is actually a variation that was very popular in the 1990s, mostly because of Anatoly Karpov, who this variation is actually named after, with knight d7, who scored a few notable victories. Most notably one against Gatakamsky, which actually followed the game that we are following now. I will show you what happened there, because that had a great impact in the development of this theoretical line and all the other side variations that later on sort of developed alongside it. So knight e4 is main line, and after knight takes, queen takes used to be the biggest main variation. And here the idea was that after knight f6, people thought that queen e4 was a very good move here that put a lot of pressure on black. Now castling kingside appeared to be impossible because of bishop takes h6 shenanigans, and in general the queen in such positions stands really well on h4 without a doubt. However, Anatoly Karpov came up with this absolutely bonkers idea against Kamsky that he played king e7. And the idea is crystal clearly to actually kind of trap the queen and play g5 next. A move that is not playable here because I simply take and the rook is hanging. So the recapture is impossible. But king e7 connects queen and rook. Ta-da! And all of a sudden the queen is feeling very, very awkward on h4. Kamsky tried knight e5, which of course loses a pawn to the standard queen a5 check motif. And then went on to play this position, which, by the way, today's engines heavily favor for white. But back then the engines weren't as good, and maybe the heavily is not quite as heavily, but favor it for white. Long story short, Karpov went on to win. Queen h4 went out of fashion altogether. Later on, however, white players started to play queen e2 as well, returning into the main line with queen c7. And so black also started refining this variation by first throwing queen c7 in, trying to provoke queen g4, when again a curious king move reared its head with king f8. But I think I am actually getting a bit ahead of myself because it happens after castles and b6. That's it. And now there was king f8 as well as g5. So again, Crazy Town is the name of the game for sure, because what is about to come here is going to be absolutely nuts. So g5 is the move. Once again, the idea is very similar. Play knight f6 and ridicule the queen to a g4 fork. There is no other way to deal with the threat other than playing queen h3, which conveniently now recreates the bishop g5 motif that we saw before. And so now black is playing a different game altogether by playing rook g8, aiming to get this g4 motif in. And here, for example, queen takes h6 actually loses instantly to bishop f8, when the queen will be embarrassed to this g4 fork inevitably. No matter whether I go to h7 or h5 first, knight f6 hits the queen returns, g4, and this is not a happy position to be in. And so Anand here, after rook g8, played rook e1. Hello? g4 fork? Can't care less, bro. So let's see what happens. So if black plays g4, now all hell breaks loose. And by the way, this game, unlike the Kasparov one, and you really have to appreciate this aspect actually of great attacking games, because I think a lot of people tend to overlook this. With the Kasparov game that I showed you last time in this series, a lot of the ideas actually happened in the game. And so whilst playing the game out, I managed to show you the best lines and best variations there. Whereas with this one, a lot of the really cool ideas unfortunately remained behind the scenes. But that does not take the value away from the game, that it's an amazing, absolutely breathtaking attacking performance. It's just that the vast majority of these amazing ideas were obviously not coming out. They were not played on the board. So queen takes h6, of course, because what else, as good old Benny boy would say. And after gf, rook takes e6 introduces similar carnage to what we saw in said Kasparov game. Fe is forced as the d6 bishop is hanging, and after queen takes e6, luckily for us, this rook is now under attack, which means that after king f8, which is forced, we have bishop f8, bishop h6, excuse me, and after rook g7, now there are various ways to get to the black king. My favorite one is queen f5 check, forcing the king further into the corner, and then bishop c4, yet another check before we capture the rook. Note how the bishop queen bishop combo is feasting on the black king, while seemingly there is a barrier between the E and D files, and everything west of that imaginary line seems to be not partaking in the game at all. King h8, bishop takes, and queen g5 check leads to immediate carnage. King f8, queen e8 here, rook e5, and white is going to recuperate all the lost material whilst maintaining a absolutely devastating attack. This is just an insane variation to begin with, but there is more to come. So, hence rook e1. Now g4 is a no-go. The game continued with bishop f8, which is a very weird move, and I would like to add that I would really not would be happy to play a move like this, and I would try my absolute best to talk myself out of it and do something else instead, because this is a very ugly, undeveloping move that is played for the sole purpose of defending h6. Now, objectively speaking, it's difficult to refute the move instantly. The engine already wants to take on e6, which I'm 100% sure that Anand calculated, and insanely, it turns out that after the shocking king d8, white actually needs to be extremely accurate to win, because if we move the rook, this knight e5 discovery again on that queen makes things a little bit messy. Turns out that the winning idea is knight takes g5 here with a subsequent penetration on h7. I don't want to go into this too deeply because it's very deep and not all the lines are crystal clearly winning. So long story short, Anand opts for queen f5, a really cool move. I really love this, which basically highlights the fact that the knight does not have now any legal moves. And so we have time to execute this h4 and then queen back idea, which is going to be very important later on. Bishop g7 was played, h4 was played, and king f8 was played. Now the queen is on, but just as well, because now we can come back to h3, and now we managed to create a new target on g5. So still, like I said, lots of weird moves were played, like bishop back. Then we did this funky maneuver with white with queen f5, then h4, then queen back. Obviously the queen was taboo due to the pin, but now king f8 renewed the attack on the queen, and now we are in this very wonky position where the queen is still feeling a little bit funny, but the king is also stuck in the middle. Take, queen g4 back. Now g5 is genuinely hanging, and that was the greatest benefit of trading the h-pawns off from white's point of view, is that now g5 is always a soft target. c5, bishop takes g5, cd4, and just like in the Kasparov game, and in fact just like in many amazing fantastic chess games, the bring all the boys to the party rule is always met. Rook d1, everybody, is attending the party, and that is always your sign, by the way, that almost certainly next move you are ready to pull the trigger. Guess what happens? Bishop b7, and boomshki, the trigger is pulled. And now comes the crazy attack, a really spectacular one. Fe, bishop e7 check. Now that is something of entirely top shelf chess that you see here. Rook takes, pawn takes, and then just casually chucking in another bishop in order to expose the black king. Now, king g8 is mated by 1. Oops, not bad. So king takes is forced, queen takes g7, and again, king d6 is pretty much forced because otherwise you just take the rook with a check, so there is nothing left in that position. And now after king d6 comes the casual knight takes d4, and Anand just goes like, well, good luck to your king on d6. Just mind-boggling stuff. He just absolutely respects material not at all and just goes for the kill with the extremely active pieces. Now, there are some insanely beautiful variations that I managed to uncover here for you guys to enjoy. So let's have a look. I wish I knew how to have a look. Just give me a sec. Yeah. So rook g8 is one of the lines that I looked at. Probably the most entertaining one. Where knight b5 check, king c6, and queen c3 check is going to bring about a beautiful mate attack. Watch how it's done. Knight c5. And since we haven't sacrificed enough material yet, ta-da! Bishop e4 check, king b5, and a4 check. Announces mate in 3 now. If the king goes to a6, we have check, checkmate. And if the knight takes, which is the prettiest mate, then we have bishop d3. That is just amazing. And now the c file is open, so the king can't go back. And so now they have to sack the queen. And there is this beautiful pawn checkmate. Wowzers. So that was a line that I looked at here for black. I don't think there was another one just yet. Queen c5 was played in the game. After which Anand went bishop f5. I mean, this guy is just absolutely next level. Absolute next level. Actually, this is what he is. Bishop f5. That is so talented. The idea is knight takes c6, and then the pawn is the knight is defended on e6. But of course, ef5 had to be reckoned with when the coup de grace is knight b5 check, and now king c6 is met by the marvelous queen takes d7 checkmate, whereas king d7 is met by rook takes d7. And now we have got again a myriad of checkmate threats. And according to their very cruel engine, it's mate in 11 now, no matter what. Knight d4 is the main threat with queen takes, and then mate to come on d6. If I take on b5, it's mate on e7. It is checkmate galore of the highest order. I would like to highlight to you that according to the engine, knight b5 check wins faster. But here you need to find the extremely clever and subtle bishop e2 move, which introduces the mate threat here, as well as a further check on f3. And actually, the deepest idea that I failed to notice, and I guess this is where most grandmasters would come up short, is that absolutely amazing move here. White to move. What is the fastest win? You won't believe it. Queen g4. Just insane. And there are two mate threats. One is queen e6, which is easy to recognize that that's what this does. But there is another one, which is queen f3. That's not really a mate threat, technically speaking. It just wins the queen. But boy, what a beautiful move that is. So, yeah, that was a tricky one to spot. Bishop f5, in my opinion, is just as effective and even more spectacular. And after queen e5, now Anand mowed down the material that he needed to take in order to secure the win. The queen is in the pocket after an intermezzo check. And even here, he actually converts very accurately. King d6, queen f4 check. Checking the king to the optimal, queen to the optimal square is always a good policy in such positions. And only then does he remove the bishop from under attack. Rook h5, knight h4. The threat now is knight g6 and then penetration on the f. Rook g8, knight g6 check. King d8 and set penetration on the f file is now terminal. The rook is hanging, and on rook e8 a simple bishop d3 introducing bishop b5 threat alongside knight f8 as a secondary threat decides the game. Note that knight f8 attacks the rook as well as attacks the knight on d7. Now, this game really does have an awful lot in it. I tried to do justice by showing you the most amazing variations than the most thematic ones, but even my analysis has left a lot uncovered, and I very highly recommend you to just load the game into your chess game analysis, whether you use Lichess or chess.com, it doesn't matter. I will provide the PGN below, and just have fun with this game, because boy, what the world champion has done here was something outside of this world. It was just amazing. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this second edition of the most amazing attacking games. I'm going to definitely continue this, so there is more to come soon. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, to sub, to comment, and then I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.